All righty. This one. Hi, how are you? Good, good.
Is that something you need to?
No, sir. I got one for the agenda over there.
So we're ready? Step together here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Canola Scott, Chairman of the Madison County Planning and Zoning. At this time, I'd like to call this public hearing meeting to order. Would you please stand with me for a word of prayer? Tell God our fathers once again that we are bowed in our presence, thanking Thee for all the good and perfect gift that Thou bestowed upon us. Our Father, we thank You for life, we thank You for health, we thank You for strength. Our Father, we invite You to come and be with us tonight, that we may hear these rezone requests and do what is pleasing in Thy sight. And our Father, we'll be so careful to give You all the honor and the glory. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. Now I'm going to ask the members of the Planning and Zoning to introduce themselves and the district they represent, starting on my left. Gandy.
Good evening. Bruce Gandy, District 5.
Kenneth Bradley, District 1.
Cynthia Fortson, voted in by the committee.
Canola Scott, Chair, appointed by the Chairman of the Board of Commissioners.
Lee Mitchell, District 2.
William Smith, District 4.
And of course,
Tracy Patrick, Zoning Administrator.
all right. As our first order of business this evening, I'm required to read a few statements regarding the zoning process. Tonight is the first of 2 public hearings. Somebody help me with the date. A second hearing will be held before the Madison County Commissioners at this location at 6 p.m. on, what day is it?
Oh my goodness, I've been fooling the date. Give me 1 second. April 4th.
April 4th, 2022. Attendance is not required at this hearing, but it is encouraged in case questions come up that I may not be able to answer. As of the order of business tonight, I will ask the zoning administrator to make her comments as to the zoning request. Then the applicant will come forward, state their name, address, and sign in and state their reason for the request. Next, the Zoning Commission will be able to ask questions to clarify their understanding of the issue relating to the application. After that, I will allow public comment for or against the rezone or amendment. All comments will be addressed to the Commission and not to others in attendance. no personal attacks will be allowed. Note, the Planning and Zoning Commission is a recommending body only, consisting of concerned citizens who are appointed by the county commissioners. We are a fact-finding body that visits the property, review the information, consider public comments, and within the guidelines of the comprehensive plan and other land use ordinances, make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners. This final decision will be made on Monday night, April the 4th, 2022. Again, we are a recommending board, and we will be making a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. Is there anyone on this board need to recuse themselves for any applications to be heard tonight? See none. Ms. Patrick, would you please begin with our order of business tonight as to our first order of business?
Okay. Under old business, the Madison Preserve preliminary plat review with Abe Consulting. This was carried over from our March the 1st meeting, and upon my review, the preliminary plat had met all requirements.
Thank you. Mr. Abe, would you like to step forward?
Yes, sir.
While he's coming, this was delayed simply because there was so much on the commissioner's agenda that I recommended that we postpone our decision for a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners until tonight, and also give our new members a chance to go over the preliminary plat process. So we're back tonight to make a recommendation. I told Mr. Abe when I saw him come in that he had been so gracious to come before and had presented everything to us, but he said he wanted to come back again tonight if there was any questions. So, Mr. Abe?
Mr. Chairman, good evening, members of the Planning Commission members. It's always good to see you. I know hopefully you had the time to look over the plans. I'm not going to repeat everything we have presented to you in terms of time and respect to the folks waiting for the next item. But the plan does meet all of the requirements as Ms. Patrick had mentioned to you, and she's been gracious and wonderful to work with, along with all the staff you have. So, like I said, everything, including the conditions. I know some of you may have had a question or two after you reviewed. I'll be glad to answer those, but every condition that was placed on that, I believe Mr. Mitchell had a couple of questions on the architectural, maybe. I'll be glad to share that too on the elevations or, architectural representative. So I've got some boards we had presented when we did the rezone. We can show you that. And also the breakdown, and I'll speak on the microphone. Give me 1 second.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Well, I'll speak a little louder then, but these are the exact, elevations that we used. So I'm just bringing them back here. It's just to refresh some memories, So they'll be, of course, they're not going to be exact, but the materials, we had said no vinyl siding, other materials, as you see here, would be utilized. Folks want to see, this was presented previously, obviously. So again, it's just to refresh some of the memories here. Live here, folks can see too. So all of those, of course, are on file, with the county. So again, they're here to see. And but when going through, you will see. And then we had some handout as well, in addition to that. So those were presented at that time. And we had some also loosely, or it was on the board as well. I think it might have been the first board. And there was a breakdown of square footage to units, and 25% had to be 1,800 square feet or less, and it just went up from that. So, it's about 15 units what we had roughly. for 15 houses to be minimum 18, and it went up, from 18 to 2,100. That was about 15 of them. Remaining 75% of the lots had homes ranging from 2,200 to 3,000. And then the estate were 5,000 to 6,000 square foot. Those are the A2 lots. So 3 of those would be a minimum of that square footage range. And that was heated square footage. There were other requirements that we presented, and of course, it was part of the rezone, which we are abiding by, like the 3-acre lots along Old Kincaid, this buffer here, that buffer 25-foot here, the 50-foot here, and all the lots touching Old Kincaid are 3-acre or larger, basically. So, and we met all the other requirements in terms of size. But the one we talked about, elevations, these, I think they were on the board. They were on that first board. Right there. All of those. I'm sure I got all of them. We didn't have everything on the board. So, something like that. Again, those are on record with the county. We're not, so they won't be exact. They would be just the material or similar, but the square footage, of course, has to be met, that criteria. Just bringing some of that from the rezone back, Mr. Chairman, to the group. But I'll be glad to answer any questions. We're anxious to move forward to the Board of Commissioners next. And of course, as you know, this is coming back to you as a final plan. So with that, I'll answer your question.
Thank you, Mr. Akins. Anybody have any questions?
In that same light, can you give us a percentage of how many homes will be on slab versus crawl space versus basement?
It's really, the percentage will be high in terms of crawl space and basement, just because of topography on site. So I couldn't give you an exact number, because really you have to do a site design at individual sites based on septic requirements, the slopes that you got. But I would say, if I were to guess, probably a good 70% going to be on either crawl space or basement. This is an estimate, just been doing it for 31 years and just looking at topography. There'll be fewer slabs, just because it does have topography to it, the site. And usually if you grade too much, you could hurt the soils. So the benefit of having a crawl space in a basement is you don't grade as much. If you're raising a slab and you have to grade, you eat up into the soils, and we need to preserve as much the soil for septic systems. So that comes in a factor in there. To answer your question, Mr. Mitchell?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Gandy?
I appreciate also your
Yes,
patience
sir.
as well, and I did make use of time to get a little bit smarter coming up for this time, but it's a good presentation, I must say. I do have the lots. I mean, I noticed when I drove past the place, it's pretty wooded out there.
Correct.
And the preservation of the trees, that's I think that was kind of mentioned in some of your.
Yes, sir.
Is any more that you'd like to add to that in terms of?
Well, I mean,
I know, and the buffers are sure, I understand those.
yes, sir. So, as you know, in any house lot that you have an acre and a half, you don't go clear the whole lot. I mean, who would want to buy a cleared lot and house on it, acre and a half especially? Now, if you're in Athens and you're building on a 8,000, 10,000 square foot lot, you probably end up grading most of it and clear most of it. But when you have an acre and a half, you're not going to clear that. First, it costs you a lot. He's a contractor, builder. He can tell you that in a minute, how much it costs to do that. So you got that cost, but you also got the beauty factor, the natural beauty. You don't want to go take all the trees down. So really, usually, you're going to do what you need for the house, what you need for the septic system, in your driveway, and then you want to leave as much natural buffer around your home as possible. So on an acre and a half, if you have an acre and a half, you're not going to go clear at all. unless you're planning on doing a farm, and you're gonna create a pasture or something like that, so. But that's really worked through lot by lot. Having gone to an acre and a half lots automatically gives you that kind of ability to have a lot more green space. And some of the trees, a lot of the trees left, so.
Yeah, the regs say there's a minimum of 6 trees has to be on the
Yes,
lot.
there'll be a lot
That'll
more.
be easy to.
It's gonna be easy to meet that, a lot more than that. So again, two-pronged, deal here for us is we don't wanna spend money to clear something that is gonna hurt our sales and our privacy with the homes. You know, at the same time, you know, you're saving money by not doing it, so.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions?
I think Cynthia had made the recommendation, and I'm assuming that it got through. I just wanna make sure, the lot number 1 across the road,
Yes, sir.
that, to make sure that people won't backing out into the road, it will have a turnaround.
That is part of the conditions. There will be a hammerhead on that property with that site plan, and I'm sure Ms. Spatzer will make sure we do that. But we also don't want to back up in the street. And there's plenty of room. That's about 5.6 acres or so lot, so it's not like we're hurting our space. We'll be glad to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ed. Very good presentation.
Appreciate it.
We have heard this, and I do apologize again for the delay. That was something that I did simply because I thought it was the right thing to do at the time. So at this point, I will ask for a motion to approve or disapprove the Madison Preserve subdivision preliminary plat. Floor is open for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the plat as is presented to us.
I'll second. We have a motion by Cynthia and a second by Kenneth to approve the preliminary plat that we, present to the commissioners to approve the preliminary plat. Bruce?
Yes.
Kenneth?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
The plat has been approved. It will be presented to the commissioners.
Thank you very much.
To
We
approve the plat.
appreciate that
Thank you very much. All right, Tracy?
Okay. Now on to the public hearing items. The first scheduled public hearing is for Mark Whitfield. He is requesting to rezone his 5-acre property from A2 to RR to cut off 2 acres with existing homes to sell. The remaining 3 acres will be used for pasture area, and it adjoins property that he owns. The property is located at 1399 East Commerce Road on map number 12, parcel number 167, and that's in District 1.
Good evening, Mr. Whitfield.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming. Want to tell us tell us about your request?
All right, I purchased this property January-ish of last year. With the market being what it is, I saw an opportunity and I jumped on it because I was basically homeless at the time because I had sold my previous property and was looking for something, and with the market, it was just crazy. Anyway, so I found a good deal on the property, I bought it, and upon moving in, I realized that East Commerce Road is equivalent of Interstate 85, and my bedroom is 60 feet off the highway. That being said, I'd like to rezone the property, cut out the 2 acres where the house is currently located, retain the 3 acres behind it because I since have purchased 12 acres that join it, and retain that with my 12 acres, and potentially sell the house and the 2 acres, and then build a new house on the other side, just further off the road. That's the only thing. I'm just trying to get away from that because my bedroom's 60 feet off the road, and I hear cars all night, radios all night, tires going up and down the street. Just, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be when I bought it. That's basically it.
All right. Any members of the zoning commission have any questions?
You actually live on the property.
I live in the house now, yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question. So you want to, rezone just the 2 acres?
You know, I have to rezone the whole thing, I assume,
Oh, so
and then
you're
cut out
not-
2 acres so that I can sell it, because the way it is now, I can only sell the house with 5 acres.
Okay, so you want to rezone the whole, all of it?
Mm-hmm.
to RR,
Yes, ma'am.
but you said you wanted to keep that as a pasture.
I wanna keep the 3 acres, but survey out 2 acres around the house, road frontage.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so the 3 acres are gonna be A2 still. And,
If that's a possibility.
Is that what you're trying to do?
It's not,
I didn't think it was a possibility.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. So-
I thought I had to rezone the entire parcel and then cut out the
Okay,
2
he
acres.
does.
okay,
Right.
so
Yes,
that's what
ma'am.
I'm trying to figure out.
Okay,
So you want to keep that as a pasture,
yes.
so.
Because it joins the 12 acres beside it that I already own as well.
Yeah. Okay,
Now,
so,
for your A2, if you don't mind,
yeah,
your A2 there is a stipulation in the regs where you may retain 2 acres
Mhm.
and in an A2 and liquidate the rest of the land. But that has to be your principal residence.
Mhm.
Currently, that's the case, but your intention is not for that to be the case. You want to sell that to someone else.
Yes, sir.
And then,
And then retain the 3 acres behind it.
okay, and so you'll have a total of 15 acres
That's
with the
correct.
12 acres.
Yes, 11.78, I think, but yes.
And you wanted rural residential because you want it to be.
I want to retain the 3, and I can't sell the 2 with it zoned the way that it is.
Yeah, unless it was, you got that.
That's correct. Do you
with the RR.
Do you have any objection to taking the 3 acres and combining it with the 11 point whatever, and make all that A2, and then the 2 acres will be RR?
I don't have any objections.
You don't have any objection?
No, sir.
Okay. That was my question.
I know, 'cause if he keeps it RR, he cannot raise farm animals on that 3 acres for RR.
I could raise
can,
for my personal use, but I can't raise commercially on that
Right.
farm, which I don't raise on it anyway. It's just pecan trees and pasture, basically.
Yeah, that's my question, why will you do that all RR instead of?
I
Yeah.
don't do any, farming or anything of that nature. I just purchased it because I like the nature and I like the views, and the property's beautiful. It's just, like I said, that traffic noise is really disturbing my sleep.
Understand. Any additional questions?
So you're willing to combine these and just have one parcel?
The 3 acres and the 12 acres that I have?
Correct, yes.
I am. I mean, that's fine. That's fine with me. The only problem with that is that the 12 acres I own jointly with my mother and father. The 5 acre tract I own privately, which is in my mortgage.
So is this your 12 acres here?
It's 11.78 that it joins it on the left side.
Okay, 11.7.
I don't have an objection to keeping that 3 acres, A3 or A2, whatever it is now. I don't have a problem with that.
One of the reasons that I brought that up is simply because we're getting a lot of properties, and it's being a concern of, it's already a small A2 to begin with, and then we cut out part of it, and then it's actually non-conforming the other part. So if you can combine a bigger tract, it works out much better.
No, that's fine with me, if that's what.
would that interrupt your mortgage?
Well, I mean, if I sell the property, it's not gonna affect it anyway. The mortgage would pay off with the 2 acres.
Okay.
So then, that would just basically be my property altogether, you know what I'm saying?
So, I was trying to figure out,
I just
so
retain
will you
ownership.
have, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Will
go
your
ahead.
accessibility to your other property come through that 3 acres?
No, ma'am.
road frontage.
No, ma'am, it has road frontage of its own.
Okay.
Now, there is to access the 3 acres that I plan on retaining, I would have to go to it from my other property, but there is already an easement to the property behind it on my 12 acre tract.
Okay, good. I'm trying to figure out where your 12 acres.
Okay, can I approach?
Yes, you can come.
Yes. Okay, is this my 5 acres here?
No,
where we
right
at?
here, the yellow. That's supposed to be.
No, that's incorrect. That's an old
The
map.
yellow is the 11 point,
That's his property.
Oh, this is his property.
I think so.
I don't think that shows
Again.
that. Correct. I don't think this map that you have here is current because this is actually cut into smaller pieces.
showing that, and unfortunately,
Right.
they haven't.
Yeah, this is my 5 acres here. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is the 11 point, whatever, right here.
Okay.
This little
So
pie
it
shaped
goes
piece.
down.
So I got
Oh,
road,
right here, so
yes,
you
yes.
got road.
I got road frontage right there, yes ma'am, and the easement runs right down the property line on the joining side of this.
So the 2 acres would come over here, so
That's
you would
correct.
have to have an easement with the 2 acres.
There is an easement already, an existing easement to this property back here.
Okay, so,
You can see a little bit
Yeah,
better.
there you go.
okay.
So that's the larger parcel.
That's the larger parcel, yes ma'am. And then
There's just 5 acres.
There's the
Okay,
smaller
so
parcel.
you're cutting out this, and it's gonna be like a
Yeah.
flag.
Basically, no, just basically a rectangle road frontage right here with the house. And there's already an easement to this property here that I do not own, that runs through my property.
Okay.
All right.
So the representation of the drawing though, you're saying you're gonna take all the road frontage and put with the house?
Whatever it takes to make 2 acres, yes sir.
Yeah.
Cause that was one thing that was not on the sketch that we were provided roughly, looked like you were trying
Oh,
to
yeah,
leave
yeah,
some.
that's what
No, I mean, basically just a rectangle for the road frontage part, yes sir.
Okay,
But whatever it takes to make up that 2 acres right there. Like I said, I own this over here.
Sure.
So if I could keep this side of it and still obtain my 2 acres here, that'd be fine with me. I'm not really particular about that part of it.
okay. The old cemetery that is on the plat?
Yes, sir.
Is that something that's recognized, or?
It's just 2 stone, actually it's just 1 stone with no markings on it under an oak tree, that's all there is. There's no names, no dates, no nothing.
Okay, any additional questions?
I was gonna ask William, the discussion about the easement, the property behind this 5 acres.
Yes, sir.
Which is, I think is owned by Mr. Morris.
Jake Marsh, yes, sir.
Okay. He gains access to his property through your
He
property?
doesn't.
He does not,
He does not.
okay.
But in order to purchase the property, he had to have an easement, and the guy he purchased it from owned my property at that time.
Okay.
He owns the property on the left, be the right side of that, if I can approach just a second.
This is the property in question.
Okay, yeah, he lives right here,
So he's not landlocked.
and that should be on my favorite slavery, yes.
No, he's not landlocked, because he got an easement.
Yeah, but still.
So are you saying the owner of this property is the same as this property?
It's not the same owner, my stepdaughter lives here. Her grandfather owns the property, and that's her live-in boyfriend, and they bought this land. So they access it they got a barn right here and a gate and everything that comes in from that side.
Okay, so it's accessed off of this property.
That's correct. Currently, it's accessed off this property. If something happened and they broke up for whatever reason, he has an easement that he could potentially use here to still access his property.
Off of your
Off of my
11.7
11
acres?
point, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Whitfield, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
May call you back up in just a second.
Okay.
Is there anybody here that would like to speak in favor of this rezone? Anybody here? Speak in favor of this rezone? Seeing none, is there anybody here that wants to speak in opposition to this rezone? Anybody want to speak in opposition? If not, I will close the public hearing and bring it to the board for a motion to approve with conditions, or to deny.
Could I
Mr. Gedney?
ask the question
Sure,
first, Mr.
okay.
Chairman? Can we, or could we, I noticed that there's a lot of RR across the street, but this particular area is A1, A2, all in the community, the surrounding area. If that RR is granted for the 2 acres to be sold off, is it possible just then to just leave that as A1, or do a plat and combine it again? But I'd like to see the A1 maintained, or
That's A2.
A2 maintained, if at all possible.
Mr. Gannon, from my perspective, and we're in conversation now, I would like to see it remain A2 also, but I would like to see it combined with that 11-point-something acre, because,
No, that makes sense.
my belief is that these little small A2s and A1s, you know, we're creating ourselves a problem if we don't get bigger tracts. And this is a perfect opportunity to cut this off into RR for what he's asking. And he himself said he had no problem with combining it with the 11 acres. So that's my recommendation, or that's my thoughts.
I'll make a recommendation that we rezone it for RR, cut 2 acres off, then under conditions that the 3 acres be combined with the A2, and keep it A2.
I'll second.
Okay. We've got a motion, by Kenneth to rezone the 2 acres to RR on the condition that the 3 acres be combined with his other properties. And I have a second, by Mr. Smith. Any discussion, any more discussion? Ready to vote, Kenneth?
Yes.
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 Okay. Mr. Whitfield, it is approved under those conditions. On April 4th, we're a recommending body. We will recommend to the Board of Commissioners that this be approved under the conditions that we have stated. You're welcome to come, and I would encourage you to come to that meeting also.
Okay, I'll have to contact my mortgage lender and make sure that they're okay with all that.
All right, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Tracy, next on the agenda.
Okay, the second public hearing is for Jay and Hunter Pridgeon with Capital Resource Management. They're requesting to rezone their 17.83 acre property from A2 to R1 to subdivide into 11 1.5 acre lots for a major subdivision. The property is located on Diamond Hill Culvert Road on map 58, parcel 47 in District 5. And I have a few things, if y'all don't mind me passing these off. Y'all may already have them, but I thought that's what I emailed you guys.
Okay, Ms. Pridgeon, you can tell us what you are requesting
My
here.
name is Hunter, and I'm a representative for Capital Resource Management, no problem. And I'm here to propose a new subdivision off of Culvert Diamond Hill Road. It's right between the subdivisions of Brush Creek and Cadence Springs. The project will consist of 11 1.5 acre lots that we plan to build single-family homes on that range around 2,200 square feet to 2,500 square feet. I've included some photographs so y'all can see kind of the home look that we are going for. And as y'all may already know, this property was previously developed by the previous owner, but they never finalized the plat, so it was never actually rezoned. Therefore, the project site already has the road, curb and gutter, electrical, street lights, and the well system that is suitable for a community water system. So therefore, I just ask that y'all approve our rezone.
And if I may make a comment, and the property was actually rezoned to R1 in 2005, but due to a final plat not being presented and recorded within that year, it reverted back to an A2.
Yes, ma'am.
But all of that had been taking place.
Yes, ma'am.
So right now it's on A2.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, a quick question.
All right?
Yes, sir.
What's the subdivision's name?
It doesn't actually have a name. Its road is Kirkland Drive. We are naming it Nancy's Place.
Okay,
Yes,
and that, of course, that needs to be approved by the Board of Commissioners.
Yes, sir.
And, And once again, some lovely trees y'all got out there, good standing things in that, so, I mean, it might be, really nice looking place. Question about the water system, I think you said some of that, I don't know how to, my question is, the homeowners, the homeowners association will be mandatory for the, owners when they buy.
Yes, sir.
What will that cover?
You may wanna help me out on this a little bit.
I mean, you say the water doesn't act in, because it says in the regulations that they have to sign an agreement, and it has to be, the homeowners association bylaws have to be submitted, guaranteeing that water will maintain up to standards.
Right. That is, if the water system is to be given to the HOA. Because we're Class 4 water wastewater operators, licensed in the state of Georgia, just like Georgia Water and Well, Piedmont Water, and y'all are all familiar with how they do. They own their own water systems in the county, and they provide water to their customers. We do the exact same thing. We've got water systems on Grady Drive. We've got water systems on Wooddale, Ferndale Court and Hull, off Hardin Marsh Road, several in the county that we provide the water. We've got water meters. It's the same basic thing as they do. We just do it for our own communities like this. So they will be each individually metered, and they will pay a water bill, just like every other community water system. The well will not be deeded to the HOA for the HOA to be responsible for the well system. We will retain ownership. We will provide the water. We will make sure the water is EPD compliant. We'll do the monthly water metering and testing, the chlorination, the filter systems, all that will be done through me, because I'm the license holder, so that what you're reading there will not come into play, because we will be a privately owned community water system. And that's what we have to do the subdivision. That's what they said we had to do to provide this. Since the city or county could not provide us with water, we had to do it this way. So that's the way that we've designed it to be done. And as far as the HOA, we will have covenants that will be recorded with the deeds. Once we get the final plat approved, there'll be covenants on the property that state the square footages, and, basically the same thing we did in Cadence Spring, the subdivision right next door. That basically says no vinyl siding, on the house, and all the different covenants when we put the covenants for this subdivision together. But they're gonna follow suit with Cadence Springs exactly, which is the pictures that we gave y'all.
Okay. Any other questions?
What is the name of the company that has the license for the Class 4?
Pridgeon Enterprises Incorporated, and it's actually in my name, Jimmy E. Pridgeon.
So can I, let me help me understand. Going back to the septic or the wells, each, you're gonna have just one big septic tank. Is that what you're saying? Or each house will have its own?
Has nothing to do with septic.
Well,
Okay.
We're talking well water.
Each one will have its
A
own
meter.
well.
No.
Each one will have its own water meter,
Oh.
just like you do in any city. Just like Madison
Yeah,
County does,
okay.
you're gonna have a water meter that the water comes through that meter to your house.
And, I do have a letter from Fortson's Well Drilling and Environmental Services dated January 26th of 22, and it stated that our company has drilled a 10 GPM well that with ample storage is suitable to operate a community water system serving up to 24 homes.
Okay, so when the covenant, when you turn it over to the HOA, you're still gonna be monitoring that, or do they monitor it, the water?
They will have absolutely nothing to do with it.
So you are,
We will own it,
own
and we will sell the water to
it,
them.
okay.
Just think of it, you know how Madison County owns their
Yeah,
water
okay.
system,
No, I
and they meter it
understand.
and sell people, and they get a monthly water bill?
Right.
It'll be identical to that.
If I bought a lot in this subdivision and you were gonna provide the water, what's gonna assure me that you're gonna provide the water to me forever. That you're not just gonna say, well, okay, I'm through with it. I'm done.
I guess same way Madison County does. Right now, Madison County can say, we're not giving you a water meter. Be absolutely no difference. But I would never do that because the object of having the water system is to make money. And I can't make money if I'm not selling water.
Okay.
So it'll pretty much be the exact same thing as it is today. We're probably gonna follow the Madison County guidelines exactly. $1,650 for a water meter. You know, and then we're gonna use basically the same rates Madison County's charging, because what we've discussed is, if Madison County ever comes down through there and has water to provide, and we ever needed to or wanted to, we could hook to Madison County's system,
Right.
sell them the system, just like they buy systems everywhere,
Right.
and then Madison County could take that over. But at this time, Madison County doesn't have the water or water lines on that road to do this, or I'd be letting Madison County connect to it right now.
I'm looking at future. So, do you have a future site for another well, just in case something goes wrong with this well that may not supply? Do you have a backup?
Well, I mean, what you would do is go drill another well. but
Right, I said, do you have
That's
a-
not normal and customary, no
Yeah.
ma'am.
So you don't have,
Not for a small, like if we had, like that other subdivision that we were
Right.
looking at a while ago, something in that case,
yeah,
we would put a well system, we'd go do 2 wells, maybe 3 on that size well because of the number of lots, et cetera. But in something small like this, I've got 1 well, let's just talk about one in the county, on Ferndale Court in Hull, Georgia. I've got 1 well that's been there since 1992, and it serves 16 houses, and the only thing I've ever had to do to it is put a new well pump in it when the well pump went out.
but I know some things, sometimes it goes wrong with wells, so.
Right, well, I mean, you got
was
pumps
wondering
and all, but pretty much, when you do a deep well like we did,
Yeah,
and I can't remember how deep that one is, do you remember? Let's say it's 700 feet,
yeah,
because we really drilled it and we went way beyond to put storage in it and everything else. Because I believe that well's like,
I think you're right.
it's 400 to 700 feet,
I
I
was
can't
gonna say
remember
500,
exactly. But when you do a deep well like that, you don't have the trouble you do when you have bored wells that are 60 feet deep.
right, okay.
Okay.
You have
Mitchell?
over on Faith Lane with your other subdivision, you have, municipal water for that subdivision, right?
Yes, sir.
No well. Is there any, an extension of that down to Kirkland at all?
It ends at the corner of Old Kincaid Road
Right.
in the county. That is actually owned by the city of Colbert and owned by Piedmont Water. And their exact words to me when I did Cadence Springs, would that be the last subdivision that would ever get water in Colbert, until they found more water or could drill more wells.
Mhm.
I know they've drilled 2 or 3 so far and have been unable to add any storage capacity to their well system. So they basically,
Right.
they're not letting anybody add any water to it.
So it goes as far as Kincaid Cemetery Road, it does not
And
extend
it
on down to
ends.
Kirkland anyway?
It ends right there.
That's what I thought, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure.
And that's what my question is, because I live in Colbert, and I know there's problems with wells.
Right.
So I was just wondering, did you have a backup, just in case?
Well, the Colbert doesn't have a problem with wells.
Yeah.
They are just to capacity with the wells
Right.
they've got. They just drilled a new one. My guy drilled it at the city of Colbert, for the city of Colbert, at Colbert Elementary School. And I can't remember the exact gallons, but they got water enough to do Colbert Elementary School.
Right,
But they didn't have enough to connect to the water line to add more capacity, like for 20 or 30 houses. You know, they just, it would take them going and buying a piece of property and drilling a new well, and they're not willing to do that. They would rather people like myself go out and while they're drilling wells, if we hit a well that hits 65 to 165, or over 160 gallons a minute, then they would rather just buy the water from us.
now you, I see here, on these pictures, like our friend right here was saying, are you gonna be preserving any of the, trees and? are
Yes,
you
ma'am.
gonna
The
just-
difference in those 2 subdivisions
Yeah.
is that one was a pasture to begin with, and there was no trees in that one. This other subdivision, we left almost every single tree in that subdivision that was there when we developed it. There's very few trees that we even cut down. The only trees that we had to cut down on that piece of property were the ones that are inside the retention pond that we built.
This one, the retention pond's already built.
Mhm.
Pretty much the trees that are there are gonna stay. The only thing that our plans would be was, whatever size that house is to go in there and, you know, maybe do 100 by 100 just where the house is.
Right.
I'm a tree lover, I'm a tree hugger. I don't wanna cut down any trees.
Bruce?
I had one follow-up question on the water. I noticed that there's a fire hydrant right at the entrance to your subdivision there. That's not possible the water would not be available through that line?
There is no water there.
So that's a dry hydrant?
I have asked the county and the city, and there is no water going down through there.
You saying there's a hydrant at Cadence Springs or to this subdivision?
This subdivision.
Really?
Well, I mean,
It's at Old Kincaid Road, it's about a mile to the left.
Right. Okay.
That's the closest water hydrant, it's the one that I'm,
Well, yeah, I wanted to go back to the water as well from a fire protection standpoint. Do you have any plans at all to have enough water available for fire protection? I know 10 gallons a minute is nothing with.
well, we're gonna have storage, we're gonna put like a 1,500 to 2,000 gallon. Barry Fortson with Fortson Well is putting all those numbers together to get the storage capacity there for all the houses.
Mhm.
I hadn't thought about it as far as fire protection goes.
Well, I meant for
And putting
fire
hydrants.
engines to put out a,
Yeah.
So that is one thing.
I reached out to Barry today, and he said it's 600 feet deep, the well is, 'cause I inquired.
600.
10 gallons a minute is great for one house, typically. You know, you'd love to have a little bit more than that, so I reached out to Barry today and talked to him. He said it's 600 feet deep, so that's 900 gallons of water, and he said they're gonna put in a 1,500 gallon storage tank. My kind of follow-up on that is when you have covenants and those type things, still, you know, if you're talking about 11 homes and you've got 10 people, come July, when it goes kind of dry in certain areas and they want to water that sod that you're going to put in their front yard, how do you balance those? Is that something that you're going to put into the covenants as far as watering restrictions and those type things to make sure that you have adequate water to be able to supply, first and foremost, the needs
It
of the
wouldn't be in the
residents?
covenants, it would be in the water regulations.
Okay.
But what Barry assures me, and he does this every day, is that this is enough water, the way he is designing it with the engineers, to provide water, and he's done it all over our county and every county around here, up to 25 houses. He's got the same system in Franklin County that's providing 25 houses with water, and for years it had no problem.
He told me Hart County today when I called
Hart
him on the
County.
phone. That's what the premises or the basis of this particular system.
And we're only doing 11, and he's got like 24, 25 on that system.
well, I would have to take his word for it as far as furnishing this many homes with normal water for living purposes. But when it comes to the storage that you're talking about, being able to utilize that to pump to a fire engine to put on a house fire.
Yeah.
There are no plans to do that, to put in hydrants or anything like that, to pump that water from that storage facility to down the street?
There are none.
Because I see where you reached out to, it said there wasn't gonna be an impact, little impact on the school system, but like they're saying, have you reached out to the fire department?
And talk to them
Yeah,
about,
any impact, how the impact of those 11 houses. Because like you're saying, you have well water, there's no water coming from the hydrant.
If we could just take a, can I show you
Yeah,
something?
absolutely.
Just to clarify, when I was out there, there's your zoning sign,
right?
and that, I think, is right there at the entrance, isn't it?
For the fire hydrant?
I believe there is a water line that runs down the road. It's just not large enough to be able to service this development.
All right, but for fire.
But there is
for
a fire hydrant.
For fire purposes that, you know, right at the entrance.
They will not provide us, I guess what I was saying is they will not provide us with water in this subdivision. because they say there is not sufficient water provided by the city of Colbert
Right.
to do another subdivision.
So you asked, and then the answer was no.
Was no.
to that.
That's
Okay,
right.
I didn't know that.
Right, they said, no, we don't have enough water, therefore we had to go to the second option, which is the community water system that is approved by the state and by the county. If we do that, our rules and regulations say this is how we do it.
Okay, so that fire hydrant that's there
Is operable,
is operable,
and it is in
But-
front of the subdivision.
but you don't know if it's operable enough for fire protection.
Well, it's a fire hydrant, it should be. It's just if there's a fire hydrant there, it is sufficient to supply water. What I'm saying is they will not supply 11 more houses
Understand?
with water in the subdivision.
Understand, but I'm getting away from the houses.
Yeah,
Now I'm talking about fire protection,
right.
you know.
Is there is a hydrant in front of the subdivision there that they could supply water with.
I didn't realize that. I didn't think there was even water down that far.
There is an
That's why I asked you a few minutes ago if there was water down there.
they will not provide water past Old Kincaid Road. That's where they say the last hookup is. But I know for a fact, because I watched Barry Fortson do it, is the house directly across the street and the one behind it is serviced by that same water system. It comes all the way past the subdivision, crosses the road, and goes down there, so they supply those two houses, but they will not supply the subdivision.
You're saying the county?
Well, I think it's actually city, Piedmont Water.
Or
That's
the
something
city
that-
of Colbert?
City of Colbert, or,
Oh.
I don't know how they would define
yeah,
it, but
yeah.
it's, I know it's done by Piedmont Water, but
Yeah,
it's,
oh, yeah, that's Piedmont Water.
right.
But I mean, the county just doesn't go that far. Yeah, and they have no plan.
Was the well just recently done?
Yes.
Okay, because we were provided with, back when this was rezoned, was approved with no conditions, and there was a note on here that Commissioner Scogan encouraged the applicant to consider using bored wells or county water to avoid the possible drawing of the benzene plume that surrounds a colonial piping station in the area's drinking water. Has that water been tested in this well?
It has, there's nothing wrong with it, and we've even had it fracked, or no, they're fracking it tomorrow, I think. Which means that we may end up with a lot more than 10 gallons a minute, and it will have to get a water system like this, what we have to do, just so y'all know that it's done, is we take all these samples and we send them off to the EPD, and we send radon samples, they make us do every sample. And then Al Gephardt, who is the state engineer, will come out and inspect this well system once we get it in and get it put together and all the filtration systems and chlorinators and all that put in. He'll come and state certify it. And once he state certifies it, it'll go on their map. That is a state certified well. And then we have to do water samples every month that check all of that you're discussing. And if anything, and we don't test, I mean, we do the testing, but we send it to the EPD. And if they ever come up with anything that's like what you're talking about, then of course they're gonna come shut it down, which right now, with the testing we've done, there's absolutely nothing in it.
So all this will be done prior to the construction of any house?
Absolutely.
Everything, all that will be done?
Yeah, the well system will be installed and tested prior to.
Now, I have a different question, moving on from the water, if you would. The other subdivision that you built, adjacent to that one, I understand that there were some problems with the road that was supposed to be fixed, and has been asked to be fixed several times, but it has not happened.
And the
Can you explain to me why?
My guys are supposed to be there tomorrow, which is not gonna happen because it's raining. It's gonna be raining tomorrow. But the problem has been trying to get the product to make that happen. So when we came up with this, what basically happens is when we get ready to turn the road over to the county, okay? I call, they come and inspect it, they inspect everything from the fence to the retention ponds to the road, everything. There was an issue with the road that the water was running down the driveway and into the road. I designed it, the engineer designed it exactly like it is on paper, but it just, for some reason, it was running into the road. So I met with Alan, who's the county road guy. Me and him looked at it when it was being paved. We both agreed this is the way it should have been done. We did it the way that Alan suggested and the way the engineer suggested. We all agreed. Now what has happened since then is in the last 6 months, we've noticed there's a problem with some really, really hard rains. So what me and Alan and Todd have decided to do was go put a culvert in the road. What the real problem is right where the top of the road is at the top of the hill. And it's really flat and level to both driveways on both sides. So there is no real runoff. So what we are doing is we are cutting a 12-inch sleeve right dead in the center of the road. We're putting steel grates in it so the water that runs down the road will go in under the road into the pipe and go out. The problem has been coming up with the pipe because it's specialty, and the grate has to be DOT stamped and specially made. The pipe's been ordered for 6 months. It came in on Monday, and the DOT stamped steel grate, because it's on the side of the road, had to be specially made to the size that we're doing, and the thickness, and it's got to have the stamp on it, but it has come in, and so now they're scheduled to put it in tomorrow, but because it's raining, it's probably going to be Thursday or Friday. So all that'll be wrapped up before the board meeting in April.
Okay.
And that's a guarantee.
Well,
Because I've been raising sand trying to get it done, but with COVID and everything else going on, I mean, I'm going to tell you, I have spent the last 2 months trying to find concrete structures, which is basically anything made of concrete with reinforced. Every concrete company within 100 miles of here will not even look at you or take an order or talk to you right now until August. It's that hard to find product.
one reason I asked that question, because you know, we have to make a decision to recommend to the county commissioners. And the thing that concerned me was, you know, we got a problem.
That's right.
We've had a problem. How come it takes so long to fix that problem? And then you're here asking for a rezone. You know, why am I gonna give you a rezone to do something else when you hadn't fixed the original problem? So that's why I wanted you to explain to me
Right.
why
And
it hasn't been done.
And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to answer that question, because realistically, it's just not being able to get the product. And so, we're gonna get it done, and it's on schedule to be done tomorrow, Wednesday morning, but I don't think they're gonna get it done tomorrow because it's raining.
So if in fact we approve this rezone with conditions that this has to be done in the other subdivision before this can be approved, do you have a problem with that?
I do not.
Can I want to ask one more. Are all yours on slabs?
All those in that subdivision right there are.
Is there, I mean, looking at the homeowner's perspective, why won't you do cross fix? I know it's a cost to you.
What's the cost to me, but most homeowners that have lived on a slab, because of the cost difference, most of them, because of construction being as high as it is right now, and I'm not saying every house in there is going to be, because the topo of the land is going to have a lot to do with it, but most people would rather save the money. It's like Woodbury. How many houses we got in Woodbury on Piedmont Road right now? Every one of them's a slab. You know, and those houses are now selling for $400,000. You know.
Well, I'm saying, as you grade in there, because that looks like pretty nice land back there. And, I mean, it's beautiful. But I'm saying, if you're grading and it requires a crawl space, I know everything I know in that other subdivision is slab.
Right.
So, is that a consideration then?
Absolutely. Because what normally happens when we start this is there's several lots that are on there that are good basement lots.
Right.
And we would probably plan on doing basements on those lots. which is several of the lots on the right-hand side of that subdivision. Because there's a big drop-off in the back that,
Right.
it's level down there, but there's a good drop-off. So yes, as we sell these lots, and some of these may end up being custom homes. If people come to us and, I mean, they're ready to do it, I've got a lot of people already calling, because when this stuff hits the paper and people, I mean, our phone starts ringing. And a lot of them wanna buy lots and want us to build a house for them. And so a lot of these may turn out to be custom homes. But we're just trying to show y'all with these pictures that it's gonna be upscale houses, that it's not gonna be, you know, something that nobody wants.
I know it costs more to build it.
Okay,
When you
all
go-
right, we spent a lot of time on this.
One more, when you go to the back of the subdivision to the cul-de-sac, on the left, that lot, there's something here there called existing pond area, is that a retention pond?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
that is the
And
retention.
that is part of that lot.
Right.
Okay, you've got the same thing on Cadence, the far back
Right.
is part of the retention pond. So does the owner of that parcel own the retention pond?
Actually, yes, it's part of the subdivision, but in the HOA covenants, the HOA takes care and maintains it, but it is on that parcel's land. They do actually own the dirt under it. With the understanding they can't do anything with it, you know, it's just part of the lot.
Is there a reason why it's not cut off to be part of the homeowners association?
That's just the way we've always done it.
But that's not a problem with it being owned by a particular individual, but yet the. I mean,
We've never had a
I
problem
looked
with
at the
it.
one in Cadence and it looks pretty grown up to me, but I just wonder if it's being maintained and who's responsible for it. And now we've got it on this new one,
Right.
so.
That's just something that most people have always done, and that, you know,
So it's not the property owner's responsibility in any way?
no, it's HOA. And like the one at Cadence Springs, we bush hogged it, what, 3 or 4 or 5 months ago?
Yeah, 3 months
And we'll
ago.
actually go through and do it again here before spring hits.
So the HOA, y'all are handling the HOA, it's not a third party who's administering the HOA then?
Actually, at Cadence Springs, it has already been handed over to a third party,
Okay,
but until the county accepts that road, I maintain it until all that's completed.
and you anticipate doing the same obviously here as well?
Absolutely, 100%. Until the last lot is sold, we will maintain control and do everything until the last house, the last lot.
You mentioned that, you will be possibly selling some of these lots in this subdivision. In Cadence Springs, it looks like a third party is primarily responsible for, once it was done, they built the houses, is that correct?
In Cadence Springs, that's exactly right. I sold that to one builder, came in after I did it, I planned on building every house, he came in and needed something to do, and I sold it to him as is.
So that's something,
But I'm still in control and responsible for it as the developer, he just built the houses.
Sure, no, I wanna make sure in doing my preparation and going through and looking at
Right.
the title work there on that, I saw that you developed
right.
it, basically you get it approved, and then you sold it.
Yeah.
As,
That's how I did that one, you're
Right.
exactly right.
in this, do you anticipate
I do not.
doing something different?
The way my phone's been ringing, we'll probably build the houses or sell lots and let individuals build their houses, but they will go by those covenants and rules.
yeah, that's my, cause,
What I don't wanna do is I don't wanna sit here and tell you something that might not come to happen, so I'm gonna leave everything open. Is if somebody comes in there and wants to buy a lot in that subdivision, or 3 lots in the subdivision, build a house for them and their 2 kids, I wanna leave that option open to them. If they bring their own builder, I have no problem with that, as long as they do the covenants exactly like I say. I am Spratlin Mill subdivision. I am the Architectural Design Committee President of Spratlin Mill subdivision. So any homes that come in Spratlin Mill come through me. I approve the plans with 2 other guys that are on the board, and it'll be done exactly like that in this subdivision. That once we once we agree and tell them, so we're wanting upscale houses in here. You know, we're not wanting, just like in the last subdivision, it was a little bit different than this one, but we approved those plans before those houses were built.
Yeah, but that is a concern, because sometimes, you know, like you said, you sell a lot, another builder comes in there and they don't apply to the covenants, they put something totally different in a subdivision that doesn't even look like the other houses.
Right.
They use different materials, different things, so that was one of my concerns too, that, you know, if you're gonna go in there, are you gonna build out every lot? Or are you gonna be selling these off, or, you know, stop at a certain point, 'cause you know, you never know, you know, 'cause of the pricing going up and everything, so.
And that's why we're gonna put covenants on every single thing, that if someone does wanna come in there and build one, then we can let them do it, but they're going to have to get their plans approved by us, so that I tell them, basically, no vinyl siding, it's gotta be 2,200 square feet, you know, we got the rules in there, so that we don't have the problem you're
Yeah.
discussing.
To make a long story short, you are going to be responsible regardless of whether you build them or the other guy builds them.
Until the last house is
So the
sold.
last house built, so that's pretty straightforward.
I just have one more.
One more question,
Yeah,
okay?
Cadence Springs, all right, going through there, I went and visited this property, the day that we were supposed to go and have access to it and everything, then I went over to Cadence Springs. It's 8:30 in the morning, when I go in there, and I mean, this is another similar, it's a straight in cul-de-sac and way out. There's 4 cars parked on the parked on the road, on the actual, I forget the name of it, but in Cadence Springs, the road that's in there. Are there any covenants in that particular subdivision that dictate as far as number of vehicles or people that can park on the car? There's another house, the first one you come in on the right-hand side, it looks like he's a delivery driver or something like that, and he's got his vehicle, a commercial vehicle, parked on the side of the house. Are there any covenants that protect and help kind of regulate? Let's say a fire truck needed to get in there, that school bus, you know, I'm doing this going back into a cul-de-sac to come back out. Is that something that is in Cadence Springs, first and foremost, and would that be amended?
That's something I had never thought about. And so, what I'll do is I will read those covenants, because I don't know them, I mean, they're probably 20 pages long.
Sure.
And so I don't know every aspect of them, but that's something I can address to make sure that we do something like that in these if it is not in there.
How far off the road are these houses gonna be built in Nancy's place? Would it be a similar layout to what we had experienced in Cadence Springs, not only from the architectural, but the distance from the actual road itself?
I would say it'd be very close, because those are about 100 feet off the road.
But just once, you know, there's another house that had 4 cars, basically, and that's all that could fit on that pad.
Right.
So, you know, you've got everything backing out into that with cars parked on the side of the road. Just, that was something that I just noticed happened going into the development, since this is kind of the lynch, you know, this is what you had as a representation.
Well, the difference is these lots are 1.5 acres. Cadence Springs lots are 0.75 acres. So these are double the size of Cadence Springs. So there's gonna be a lot more room to, let's say, get cars off the road. You know, these lots are twice as big.
Sure.
So this will allow you actually to put the houses further back.
Further back in there.
Rather than 100 feet with 125, 130,
There you go.
whatever.
Well, and these lots are also not only longer but wider.
Okay. So
there's gonna be a lot more separation between the houses. Cause on this same tract of land up there, what are they, 17, 18 houses? And in here, there's gonna be 10 or 11. We got it shown as 11 on that plat y'all got, but just like you're concerned about the retention pond and some things like that, is I don't doubt we're gonna probably end up losing a lot, just when we get all the particulars nailed out with the
well house,
septic tank people, the well, all that stuff. This is just a preliminary to show you our idea, and then of course we got to, so I would not doubt we're probably gonna end up with 10 instead of 11.
all right. Thanks, sir. We'll make all you back in just a moment. Now, is there anybody here that wants to speak for approval of this subdivision? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ava Hamdan. I'm not here on behalf of Mr. Pridgeon. I've worked with Mr. Pridgeon. I don't have anything to do with the subdivision, but I'd like to offer a couple of answers to some of the questions that come in, just because I'm sitting here, I'm listening to some of the questions that we go through in our design procedure. So a typical household will take about 1 gallons or 0.9 gallons per minute. That's a standard when you calculate what they need. So even though it seems that 10 gallons per minute is low, it's actually adequate for an 11-house lot. What they have to do is make sure the storage is adequate to serve during those drier and the high demand. So just giving you some notes on that. The other thing is, if for whatever reason, we've designed systems before that have private wells, that a well fails, you either put another one to serve the subdivision. Believe me, water is a good product to have to sell. So somebody's not gonna get out of selling water in a subdivision if they can put another well to produce. But the ultimate emergency would be if you don't do any more wells, you have 1.5 acres that's sufficient for environmental health to be individual wells on those lots along with septic system. So keep that in mind. I'm just, like I said, offering some information to you. The other thing I'll tell you, in his defense, we work with a lot of GCs and a lot of construction folks in our company, and everybody's experiencing tremendous amount of delays. 6 months, 7 months, especially if you're doing some specialty. I mean, a window will take you 7, 8 months if it's a special window. It takes you 4 or 5 months a standard window to get. So, Mr. Chairman of the board, I think you just wanted to bring that up to your attention. As far as the ponds, it is common to see them on lots. In a lot of municipalities and counties kind of going away from that to put in individual systems. But when they are on the lot, there's an easement that's platted and clearly noted on the final plat for anybody buying that lot to know there's an easement, there's a pond, and that's going to be maintained by the homeowners association. So I've known Mr. Pridgeon for a long time. He might not get it right first time, every time, but I know well enough that he's a man of his word. He will step up and do what's right.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else to speak for the approval of this rezone request? Seeing none, is there anybody here that wants to speak in opposition to it? Please come forward, state your name and your reason.
Good evening.
Good evening.
First, I want to thank you for your service. I know this is a thankless job, but a necessary job, and everybody ends up being cranky in these things. So you guys end up putting up with this. My name is David Hazinski. I live in Brush Creek. My wife and I are opposed to this rezoning. I sent you guys a letter, which you may or may not have gotten. Tracy has my contact information. It's dated February 25th. I will go through some of them there, but it's the objections that we have are in writing. I emailed it to you. No? Okay.
Well, anyway.
Yeah. I'm here. The county commissioners also have it. This is all fine, but I want to get back to basics over where we are now, not how it used to be, not what we've always done, blah, blah, blah. That's fine, but at the end of the day, this is zoned the way it should be right now. It's zoned A2, and why do I say that? Because it is bordering 8 properties in Brush Creek that are 5 acres. A2 calls for 5 acres. The other 2 properties it's bordering are 5 acres. The other one's 25 acres. Nowhere near this is there a property that is 1.5 acre lots. It's just, and I've heard Kincaid Spring, or whatever, I forgot the name of it, Cadence Springs, referred to as adjacent, next door. It's a mile away. And what that is, I'm sure you're fully aware, is spot zoning. That development is in the middle of 2 farm fields. This one is a mile away from that one. But it is close to a very high value property in Brush Creek. And what that's gonna do is take all of that property in Brush Creek and lower it, because it's based on, values are based on comps. Good for them, not so good for us. It's completely consistent with what it should be now. Again, no high density or medium density developments within a mile of that. That's a problem. So is traffic. We're going from that area of Diamond Hill Colbert Road is pretty busy. That development is very close to a curve. As any of you know, nobody drives at 45 miles an hour on Diamond Hill Colbert Road. It's a cutoff and people use it to save time. They save time also by speeding. You're going from mathematically 3 houses which can be built on it now to 11. That generates 44 car trips a day. That's a lot of cars going out into a road near a curve, just is. That's a consideration. There's also no plans for an acceleration or deceleration lane. Why is that inconsistent zoning? Because Brush Creek, 850 feet away, has an acceleration and deceleration lane. But this one doesn't, even though it's closer to a curve, and Brush Creek is on a straightaway. That also is a traffic consideration. That's a problem. And it's also inconsistent zoning. Speaking of inconsistent zoning, the requested R1 calls for a through street. That's what your zoning code says. Amended in 2018, at least one through street to provide for more efficient traffic flow and accommodate emergency fire and emergency vehicles. This is a dead end. What you just pointed out in the other dead end cul-de-sac is how do fire emergency vehicles get in there when people are parking on the road? I'm sorry, we're not going to put a homeowners association covenant on that, or we're going to build a little bigger parking pad. The problem is the zoning code that this commission, that this board and this commission amended just a couple of years ago said it has to have a through street if it's going to be a medium density development. It doesn't. Are we going to perpetuate past mistakes, or are we going to do it right? Well, this is perpetuating the development we have down the road on the other side of it. The existing pond site, again, going by your zoning recommendations, Section 7.2.2 amended in 2017 said that pond cannot be included in the, also right-of-ways, by the way, in the designation of 1.5 acres per lot. Go back and read it. Well, all of that right-of-way is in each of these lots. All of that pond is in each of these lots. We've jammed as many lots as we can by ignoring the zoning regulation. Again, not my opinion, go back and read it. It's your zoning regulations, it's the county's, and it's done for a reason. The second part of this, the last part of this is the county commission for the development he has down the road on the other side of Brush Creek just changed the bordering properties to make them bigger to 3 acres to protect the neighborhood property. It was accommodated, it did fine. What you're saying is we're going to go from 3 acres on one side of Brush Creek to protect the neighbors to 1.5 acres on the other side of Brush Creek, which cuts off property. It's completely inconsistent zoning. Guys, if we're going to zone things consistently, we can't put medium density developments in the middle of nowhere or next to properties that have a minimum of 5 acres. It's just common sense. This hurts our property values. This is going to hurt everybody in Brush Creek. I have no problem with the developer. I have no problem with development. We need to do this stuff. But unless you do this right, you devalue everybody's property. Brush Creek now has on one side a development in the middle of 2 farm fields of medium density with a cul-de-sac with cars jammed all over the place. And on the other side of the pond, a chicken farm. When I came here, my wife and I moved here 10 years ago, they said, oh, this will never happen. We're not going to build a chicken farm on any side of and it's a big, giant chicken farm. Well, this is devaluing the property for all of us. And it's important that we maintain zoning, we maintain consistency. And I've heard this board talk about keeping consistency with neighborhoods. It is consistent, exactly as it's zoned now, 5-acre lots, A2. It should be maintained. Thank you, I appreciate you listening to me rant a little bit. But we're trying to protect our property, it's just that easy. And once again, I appreciate your service.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in opposition? Anyone else wants to speak in opposition? Okay, I'm hearing none. I'm gonna close the public hearing and, ask you to come back if you have any rebuttal to all of the concerns that he's brought before us.
I do not.
You do not. Okay? If he does not, then I'm gonna bring it back to the board for any further discussion that you may have, and then we will entertain a motion to approve with conditions. And I want to remind you, we can approve with conditions, and I don't know of any limit to the condition, or to deny. So, I'll leave it open to you all for any further discussion between the board members.
I don't know of anyone that knows every little thing that's in this ordinance book. But I guess at this point, I would need to ask either Christopher, if what he just mentioned about contradicting what's in the book, is there any validity?
We're talking about a through street?
Well, yeah, the through street and putting a retention pond actually on a parcel.
Through street is, where it says in the regulations on this is, if you got more than 20 houses, it gotta be a through street. In a subdivision, more than 20 houses. The cul-de-sac's gotta be at least 1,500 feet long on a cul-de-sac, so.
I think the preference is a through street, and you're right, I think there is a minimum number of homes where a through street is required. What about the retention pond on the parcel? That was a new one to me.
Do you want a specific section for that? I'm sorry, sir, should I speak?
Please.
If you can give us that,
Yeah.
if you can give us that section, we have books here, we can look at it.
It is section 7.2, 7.7.2, as amended in 2017.
Not in the subdivision regs,
It's in the amendment, the 2017, it was amended, changed.
But I'd like to say, remember, this is just a zoning request, this has nothing to do with final plat, because all those issues will be taken up when this is platted.
Understand, we do understand that. But we want to get all the information that we need to make a, good recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. And do remember, we are a recommending board, so, but we don't take our job lightly.
What's that number again?
7.7.2.
7.7.2, amended in 2017.
7.7.2. Here.
7.2.
7.7.2. Under, well, that's not the one, that's conditional uses.
Yeah, that's conditional.
Anyone found it yet?
No.
7.7 point.
That is under conditional.
7.7.2, you know, I have conditional uses in this, in my particular book here.
And there is no 7.7.2 under the.
This was in an amendment.
Subdivision regs.
The zoning code was amended in
So it
2017.
might be in our old.
It should be in this book here. Where I was reading that on, about the three streets is 5.1.1.
Ma'am, can you add to this? I see you have your hand up.
Well, I want to talk about the retention pond too, because
Well,
I live right behind
okay.
a retention pond.
Okay, well, ma'am, I gave everybody an opportunity to come and speak for or speak against.
Well,
So we have closed the public hearing at this point. I'm sorry, but we have closed the public hearing at this point. You had the opportunity to say at that time. So it's, the discussion is here.
To this point, I think I have electronic copies of these, and I can send them to Tracy if you like.
That'll be fine. Has anybody found it yet? Anything different? Okay, any other discussion? Cause I don't see it.
He was asking,
Who's asking what?
I thought he was asking Chris a question.
He was, yes.
Yeah, I was just asking if Chris.
If Chris knew.
Had anything to add to this.
Most of the time, it's under the property deed for the property, just like an easement when it comes to the dry weather pond or any community easement. It's in the property deed itself, and then it will also be referenced in the covenants as well, so. It is a fairly common thing in Georgia, just not Madison County, but in Georgia for, it to be attached to one property, it helps with the tax evaluation for subdivision.
Chris, I wanted to ask you, about you. For his subdivision, I'm going back to the water, I'm sorry. I know previous in August 2005, each lot was gonna have its own well and septic tank. And they were saying he can do a community well. So what I'm saying is the property, if he has to dig again, is that subdivision have property enough for him in that subdivision to go and dig, find another well?
Chris, Jay, is that okay? Chris?
Sure.
Jay, the well don't be on his own lot, or is it in the lake?
Actually, the way that it is if that well went dry, each lot being an acre and a half, is plenty big for every single house to have its own individual well.
Yeah,
So if it went dry,
yeah.
everybody, all 10 or 11 lots in that subdivision, there's enough room in there that every lot and every house could have their own well if they preferred to drill it instead of hooking to the system.
Okay, is there a reason that you didn't do it that way? Is it because of cost efficiency or just?
Because the county likes it better, instead of having 11 wells
Oh, okay,
in that property
yeah,
and 11 septic tanks on that
Yeah.
property, it makes more sense to have one good well
okay.
and 11 septic
Okay.
tanks.
Now, what we've got here is, a well expert has said that one well will provide.
Right.
So we're not here to change what he's laid out. We're here to either approve or disapprove what has been presented to us. Does that make any sense? So at this point, we've had lots of discussion. We've had a for, we've had against. Now it's time for us to get together and make a decision as to what kind of recommendation we're gonna make to the Board of Commissioners. To approve with conditions, or to deny. So at this point, I'll open the floor up for a motion, one way or the other.
I do understand the concern of the properties next door being 5-acre lots, large houses, property values. And I'm concerned about that. However, on the other end of Kincaid Road, we just approved a subdivision with 1.5 lots. I know along the road, we upped them to 3 acres for whatever reason. But the majority of the subdivision is 1.5 lots. And I don't know how we can grant this one an exception, you know, with bigger lots, because we're talking about a contradiction. To me, we would be contradicting what we just did on the other end of Kincaid. So with that, I'll make a motion that we approve it with the condition that the drainage issue at the entrance to the subdivision be completed, done, everything, no question about it, approved by the commission meeting date, April 4th.
This is the other subdivision.
Correct.
Okay.
The other subdivision.
We'll make sure that's
Is that
perfectly clear.
Can that be done? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is that,
That's my motion.
we have a motion on the floor.
Yes.
The motion is that it be approved with conditions that the other subdivision in question, the repairs that needed to be done are finished, complete, and approved by the county prior to this, being approved. Do I get a second?
Can I add something to it?
Yeah, that's what I said, can we add to that? Or we have to close here?
I would,
Well, let me get,
I can modify my motion.
yes.
Okay.
Let me get this second, and then we'll have discussion, and then we can come back and modify the motion if necessary.
Okay, I'll do the second.
Okay, we have, motion by Lee, and a second by Bruce, to approve with these conditions. Now, is there any discussion? Any other discussion before we vote?
Yeah, I'd like to add that, I learned a term, thank you, Abe, hammerhead. I would like that added as a condition, no matter whether you have this 40 feet off of the road, or whether it's 112 feet off the road, to try to alleviate where buses, emergency vehicles can utilize this, since it's not going to be a through, it is going to be a turnaround to allow. And then I would love there to be something in the covenants to where there is not on-street parking overnight. Once again, just for public safety, for school buses to be able to get in, pick up, and be able to get out. If there were a fire or something like that, to serve the, I would like, at least the hammerhead, and thank you again for the assist, Abe.
No problem.
Yeah, mine is the builders, all builders should, construct any construction according to the covenant. That, you know, if he sells a lot, it has to come under that covenant. They have to build according to that covenant.
Okay.
And I don't know how I can do this, but the commissioners, I'm looking at the person buying the house, that crawl spaces should be looked at. So how can we do that?
I don't know, you can't, I don't think you
No,
can.
I mean that the commissioners, you know, look at.
Well, the only thing that you can do is you can come to that commissioner meeting, and you can actually speak as a person of interest, not as a,
So we can't put in there.
not as a board member, but
Right,
you can
okay.
speak and tell the commissioners what you want them to know, or what
We
you
can
want them
vote
to,
in there.
what you want them to consider. Now, do you want to amend your motion?
Sure, I'll amend it with both recommendations. The drainage issue be wrapped up, that there'll be no street parking in the covenant, and that any lots that are sold, that the builders be required to build them according to the covenant. Is that accurate?
That's something.
Do we need to put in a hammerhead? Do we need to put that verbiage in there?
Yeah,
I'm getting a yes from the man in the back.
Yes.
I got no
Four
problem
points
with
of
that.
amendment to his motion.
Okay, Tracy, is that clear as to
It's mud, right?
Would you please tell us exactly how that motion is worded?
Okay, Lee approved it with conditions that the drainage issue at the entrance of Cadence Springs be completed and approved before the BOC meeting on April the 4th. And then William wanted to add in the Hammerhead situation, and then Cynthia requested all builders are to construct under the, covenants, which he amended the motion to agree with all that and to add no street parking in the covenant.
Wait, you
No
see something back there.
Overnight.
No overnight street
Oh,
Okay.
Can I ask one question that she changed in there to see if y'all approve it? Mainly if she changes the date and takes the date out of fixing that at Cadence Springs and don't put the date in there, if it rains for the next 2 weeks and I can't get it finished, I can prolong the BOC meeting till the next month until they have time to do it.
Well, that's something that if that happens and you come before the BOC, I'm pretty sure they will
Okay.
consider that.
Okay.
I mean, 'cause it'd be nice if we could put every word in there, but we can't. So I'm sure that they will
If you
consider
took
that.
the date out of it, then it would just say it has to be approved before the BOC meeting.
has to be completed.
Completed.
Completed. I think that it doesn't matter if the date's in there or not, and the Board of Commissioners meeting is April 4th. So you're gonna have to come before them then to either approve or disapprove. So, it doesn't really matter if the date's in there or not.
Or table it till the next month. Right, yeah.
Quick question about, we're talking about the covenants here, and then following the covenants. Are those approved by anyone?
No.
Covenants set up by the,
Homeowners Association.
and also the county, when we're issuing building permits, we do not go by covenants. We can't enforce covenants.
So actually, our motion, we can't approve with Cynthia's part in there,
Well, that's,
because we can't enforce it.
I just want that clarification.
Right. We cannot enforce it. So that part of it has to come out of the motion.
Wait, he's,
You can recommend it to the board for consideration upon approval. Their final approval can limit the ability covenants have to meet a minimum standard.
so I can put the clause in. That's what I was
No,
saying,
no, no,
recommendation.
You can't put that in there.
You can't put that in there.
You can't put that in there.
Okay. I'm looking out for the homeowners.
I understand, we can't put that in there.
So would a condition be that the covenant that applies to this has to be presented to the Board of Commissioners?
Yes. That is true. Okay, we got the motion by Lee, do you second it again?
Second it again, but let's make sure we got there's verbiage on it all correct, if you don't mind.
Okay.
One last time.
The covenant doesn't come with the final approval on the plan, or it does? No?
Totally different
Okay.
section and.
Totally different thing.
It's really honesty of the
Mhm.
builder,
Right, we
that
can't
he
enforce
will give his
covenants.
word.
Okay, would you give us the motion one more time, and then we're gonna
Okay.
move on?
And I may need help wording this,
Okay.
but, the amended motion was, to, the drainage issue at the entrance of Cadence Springs be done by the next BOC meeting on April 4th. We are to add in the hammerhead, I don't know how you word that, but
Yeah, how would be a clarification of a hammerhead, please, sir?
For me to cover that, or?
yeah,
Okay.
to have a turnaround, be a hammerhead
I think
turnaround.
what it is, it's a space that you would back up. Normally, we call for 16 foot deep and between 10 and 12 foot wide. So it's a place where you come out of the garage or whatever you park, and you're able to back up into that space to turn around and lean forward instead of backing up.
Yeah,
and that's in each lot.
It's a
and
turnaround.
that's what we did on that
So
other one.
just,
That-
if you say hammerhead, and it, ten by 16 space, you know, provide for backing up. That should be-
That was a requirement.
Thank you, sir.
You got it.
So we'll just say add hammerhead turnaround for each lot.
Right.
And then, set this couldn't be enforced due to the all builders are to construct under covenant. So
But he said that could be.
we could,
That could be a recommendation.
okay, all right. All right, and then, we've got also no overnight street parking
To be
to be added in the
in
covenant.
the covenant. And that's also a recommendation.
Okay.
It's also a recommendation, that's not, because we can enforce the covenant. Okay, Bruce, that's clear?
Yes, sir.
Second?
Yes, sir, second.
Okay, again, officially, we have a motion by Lee, a second by Bruce. We're ready to vote. Cynthia? Yes.
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 Okay, we have approval of 6-0 with conditions. Even though that's, hopefully that's pretty clear. Okay, moving on. Our next rezone request.
Okay, the third public hearing is for Stacy and Tommy Wilson. They are requesting to rezone a portion of their 5.01 acre property from A2 to RR to cut off 2 acres with their home and have the remaining 3 acres be combined with the adjoining property of Stacy's brother. The property is located at 1851 Jotham Down Road on map 10, parcel 97B in District 1.
Okay, Stacy or Tommy Wilson?
Well, I'm Todd
And
Wood,
he's
the
the
brother of
applicant.
this Stacy. She
Okay.
just asked me to speak for her.
That's fine, come and tell us what you want us to know.
He's got it, he knows more
we,
about it, he's in charge. I
it's
give you
just-
that paper.
They need to,
Do y'all need that door shut or?
Please.
Yes.
I just,
Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Allow me to come forward and speak.
Do apologize for keeping you so long, but that's okay.
Hey, that's fine. I'm the brother of Stacy and Stacy Wilson, and, I have property joining her property, and currently have a little over 7 acres, and it's zoned A2. And my sister's property, she has 5 acres, and it's zoned A2. And so what she wants to do is rezone her 5 acres to RR so that she can cut off 3 acres off of the 5 that she owns. And we're gonna join it in with the plat of my 7 acres, and that will give a total of 10 for me. And then it would just allow her 2 acres that is left to be left with her, mobile home that she currently lives in.
And can I interject there? We were only doing a portion of that property.
Okay.
So just her 2 acres that
Okay.
she's got, and then the remaining would stay A2. Because
Exactly,
you're absorbing it in your
Yeah.
property.
Yeah, we'd like to just leave the rest of it be A2. Just the only thing it would be RR would be the
And it
2
would-
acres in her mobile home.
And it would be in one tract.
Right, yes, ma'am. We would have it resurveyed and have a new plat drawn up with 10 acres being total, and it'll be still A2.
So actually, 3 acres will be changing hands.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
3 acres will be going to you.
Yes, sir, that's right.
We'll make sure I understand that. So we have 2 acres as RR,
Mhm.
and all the rest of it will be absorbed by him, or actually change hands
Mhm.
into be his property,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, that's right.
okay? Anything else?
No, sir, that's,
Any questions for him, from the board? All right, thank you, sir.
Appreciate you making this one easy.
I know. That's what I was about to say, well, we should be
Yeah.
All right, is there anybody here that wants to speak for this rezone request? Anyone wants to speak for approval of this rezone request? Hearing none, is there anybody here wants to speak in opposition to this rezone request? Anybody want to speak in opposition? Hearing none, I close the public hearing and bring it back to the board, and I will entertain a motion to approve with conditions, or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Cynthia, and a second by Lee to approve. Is there any other discussion? I would like to add or ask the group if it's necessary, but to be consistent, I would like for a condition to be that 3 acres has to be put into the brother's hand, and all of that be A2. Only the 2 acres will be RR, and the rest of it will be absorbed, and that total property will be A2. If you think that's necessary. I think I did that on the other one, so I think I believe to be, in order to be consistent, we need to add that to the motion. Would you agree with me or disagree?
Okay, so do I need to
Tell me.
read? No, I'm looking at it. So do I need to read?
If you would, restate your motion.
Okay. My motion to approve with conditions that the remaining, is it 3 acres?
Yes.
Be, put in the hands of, or no, I don't wanna say that, adjoined, is it adjoining?
Mm-hmm.
Adjoining the,
Be combined with
combined with the, 3 acres? Or,
If I may.
Well, let me help you out here.
Through it real fast. I think what Mr. Chairman, Scott's trying to do is consistent, needs to be done. The motion needs to have the rezone of 2 acres to RR is approved under the condition that the remaining 3 acres be absorbed into the neighboring parcel to adhere to county A2 standards.
okay.
What he
So our motion is what he said.
He invites me to waste too much
2
time
acres
on it.
be rezoned RR and the 3 acres be absorbed into the adjoining acreage.
That's good enough. Okay, we have a motion to approve with conditions that the 2 acres be rezoned to RR, the remaining 3 acres be combined with the adjoining property of her brother Stacy.
Yeah, we do need to put that brother in,
Stacy. Okay,
so they can be adjoined anyway.
any other discussion? If not, I'm a yes.
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 6-0 to approve. So, it is approved. You have the opportunity to come back on the 4th to get the final approval from the conditions, from the commissioners. It's not necessary that you do come, but I recommend that you at least have somebody here if there's questions that I can't answer. All right? And one more.
No, if I did want to add that, this one is optional in the Board of Commissioners. Yeah. 17 minutes. I was just saying that the VOC meeting is required for them to come.
Oh,
That's what I've been told. And this one was optional.
Okay, well, I've been told, and I've been saying all along that it's optional,
Okay,
it's
I
not.
Well, okay, well, I'll investigate that, cause I've heard the opposite, Christopher.
They're not required after the application's been through and argue their case, they can just let the paperwork stand for itself. So it's an option, though we advise, like Sheriff Scott did too.
Well, Linda had always told me that
Okay, well,
they had to come to see the bid.
If they wanna get it done or put it through,
okay, all right, thank you. Okay, the last, preliminary plat revision.
Yes, Chairman Higdon had asked that we discuss amending the subdivision regulations to revise the preliminary plat review for subdivisions to allow more discretion for the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Commissioners.
Now, can you explain that to me? I don't really understand what he wants.
Christopher, I may need you
Christopher?
on that one.
I guess I'll come forward on this one.
Yes, please do.
Good evening,
Thank
everybody.
you all. Thank you.
So, what the chairman's requesting is that, we take on a homework assignment, essentially, to, go about looking at where we can nip and tuck at our preliminary plat reviews. If there's anything that binds our hands where we would like to have more discretion for each, for everybody to come at it from a different point of view, how we can improve it to where we can have a little more involvement in it is the best way to say it. I'm trying to remember his exact verbiage, which probably shouldn't share on record. Joe, everybody that's listening. The discretion coming forth is essentially more questions. Just how we currently have our 16 questions that's, our amendments in stone, like Moses coming down from yon hill. We have 16 that we have to look at and abide by. When it comes to plat review, should we expand that? Should we expand what we're looking at for plat review? That's always wanting us to consider as a group. It's not something we can hammer out
No, it's nothing.
one night by any means.
But what I would suggest is that, like you said, this homework where we go and we look over the regulations and whatever, and see if there's anything we want to add, take away, or change.
Or if there's something another county does that stands out to y'all that surrounds us, Hart, Oconee, Banks, if there's something that they're doing that's changing, essentially we're having a lot more subdivision and expansion coming along with the new comp plan coming in.
Yeah.
We may or may not put a halt to subdivisions while we update our regs with everything coming to fruition in a very small amount of time now. Just wants it put at our forethought so we can be preemptive, not just reacting over it. And then with the regional committee that I'm also part of for the regional comp plan, the CEDs, this is also an objective that was put on us after Chairman Higdon put this on y'all. It was one that was put on us as well on the regional level. So it's the expansion and being able to make sure it's healthy and safe. I did not mean to pass over it, but to make sure that we're having a safe and healthy expansion, and it's just not nothing against Mr. Britton, but the way we've just always done it might not be the best way moving forward when you're talking about Madison County.
So is that safe to say that you're gonna be aggregating some things since you are sheltering us, that you're gonna aggregate some of those type things to be able to, pass along for us to, chew on a little bit?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think that would be fruitful, but I think after tonight's hearing that we cross-examined him pretty well.
Yes.
I think. We asked lots of questions, so, but there still may be things that we need to put in our regs. And there may be things in there that's not necessary. So, I agree that we need to take a look at this, and at our next, business meeting, we can discuss it. And see if there's anything we wanna add, take away, and,
Yes, sir.
you'll have time to maybe bring some suggestions to us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If we have, I'm sorry.
Just a real quick question. So I'd just like to get my homework assigned.
Yes.
I'm looking at Article 8, Procedures for Submission and Specifications for Preliminary Plats. Article 9, Procedures for Submission and Specification for Final Plats. Is that what we're gonna be looking at?
Part of it.
Part of it.
Part of it.
What would be the rest?
Too much to chew at one time. I think the two that, Mr. Bruce, Chairman, don't call me board member?
Bruce
I wanna make sure I'm polite and respectful. I think that would be two good first bites.
All right.
To get into it. If we look at the encompassing entire structure, we choke on it, trying to get it all done at one time, section by section. Well, either way at it and Shawshank it.
All right.
Well, I think, and this is just my thoughts, is that, yes, we should be doing this, but until we get the comp plan, we're kind of spinning our wheels. Because the comp plan may say something totally different.
But we also gotta live during that time.
Yeah, we gotta live
And we
till.
gotta be able to not only protect the county, but protect the people who are their trade at the same time. And we want to experience growth, and we want to allow that opportunity for it, but at the same time, putting all the factors together while not burdening the school system or police or fire. I mean, it's definitely all around us. If any of y'all, pay attention to any of the local newspapers, I mean, I think Franklin County has a pretty important hearing, before them, and if any of that information, I'll try to get it it's public knowledge, but it was fascinating when you look at the amount of dollars that it takes and the burden that a large-scale development can have on the school system and how it affects the grand scheme of things.
Just to give depth, I know what he's talking about. This is right next to my farm in Franklin County, where we've been there since 1785. And on a neighboring 800 acres, they're intending on putting 600 houses. There's not more than 5 houses on one road in my neck of the woods.
600 houses.
Yeah. It's exit 160 right off of Highway 85 for undeveloped agriculture. And they're trying to turn us into a bedroom community where it's been owned by, I'm gonna say 5, going out on a limb. It's really 4 families, since the inception of Franklin County. Wow. Which came after us buying our property. But there's large amounts. It's just not Madison County, which is a valid point. Our region is 12 counties, and
that's what we need to look at, where you got a lot of these A1, A2s especially, or we turn them into RRs. If it's out in the middle of, there's not no subdivision within 5 to 6 miles, we should look at it very carefully how we would turn the A2 to RR and amongst the A2 and nothing else. That's something that we're gonna have to really look at. I know me and Denny Adams talked about this the other day, that we gotta protect not only the farmers, but also the people around them. But if we start cutting off RRs and A2s, and we tend to cut down on the farmland and expand and getting too compact with the housing.
Well, the one thing we gotta remember is RR can go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you notice tonight, after the last board meeting, and I heard Denny talk about that, is that tonight I tried to drive stuff towards making whatever you leave A2, not to have 3-acre A2s or 2-acre A2s
And we
whatever,
can't
make
approve
sure it's all
non-conforming.
combined to a bigger tract. Then that way you're protecting both.
Yes, sir.
Because if we don't, we're gonna have little A2 here, little A2 here, and not only A2s, but A1s. We'll have little
What we
A1s.
would then be recommending to put it, how the board is pushing it to me, is then we'd be recommending non-conforming A2s, less than 5
Absolutely,
acres.
absolutely.
So, that's where a lot of these 5-acre A2s have in the past created non-conforming tracts, where we have the 3-acre A2 where they can't do essentially anything, but we approve the 2-acre RR when it should have just been 2.
Well, that's part of the problem.
Yeah, part
Part
of
of the problem. The real problem was when zoning first came into effect. These little 5-acre A1s or whatever, they grandfathered them in.
They gave them the most freedom
They
to
should have,
operate.
they should have been,
A4 back in
they
the
should have
day.
been rezoned something else at the time.
Well, what I'm looking at, just like tonight,
I'm sorry, I
oh,
don't
I'm
know if to
sorry.
answer, Mr. I've noticed everybody's hand that's coming up.
Oh, I didn't see
You
your
pointed at
hand.
me, I didn't know if we took it out.
I pointed at you.
Yeah, before I talked to Mr. Gann. No? Sorry, I didn't.
Okay. What,
Forced to go in order.
like, I'm looking at, a lot of these families have big farms,
Yes, sir.
and
Yeah,
their
ma'am, sorry.
children are coming in and wanting those RRs, because they don't want to be on a big farm.
Mhm.
So, that's where, I guess, is considering where this one, it was a RR in the middle of all the A2. So, that's a problem. How are we going to, because,
County comp plan through our map, county compensation map, controlled growth, not only of industry and business, but also population density. That's what the comp plan
but do
helps.
you,
Like where you make the suggestion at the beginning in your statements that we're following our procedures and the county comp plan as it stands, I'll go on record saying it's a poor plan, where our new one will have, give us a better light for the future and a healthier pathway. That is where, as a board, you then not only have to start looking at this book, but that new comp plan. They may not want to keep the farm, and they may want to come from agriculturalists to developers and turn it in. Well, that's their passion, but not only do we have to go by the planning and zoning ordinance, but also by the county's comp plan, where the county is stimulating growth and housing.
yeah, but
And
I'm
that's-
saying, you know, is that the future plan put in consideration that, kids are coming back, parents need their help, and they're coming back not wanting that big acreage, they want just the RR. So, is that in the comp plan, or do we do we turn them down, okay, well, your daughter can't build a house next to you, because it's not A2?
Well, unfortunately, you know, I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
that if you've got kids and they wanna come back and they wanna build, you should be able to do that.
Right.
But if you have a controlled growth, comprehensive plan that says that can't be done in that particular area, unfortunately, I'm sorry, you can't do it.
So the one family, what he's talking about is the one family wants it to be this way. However, turning that, I'm just gonna use 100 acres as a round number. So they turn it into 52-acre RRs. That not only changed, the property that benefited them, but it changes the county's responsibility in the school system, fire safety, police force, code enforcement, planning, zoning, building inspection, all public services then have to meet that, what that one family wanted instead of the community, and that's where that community comp plan comes from. It protects the community where.
And most of the
rights
time, I
and
mean,
protects
you're
individuals.
bringing it down to a very granular level. If somebody has 100 acres, they may not be able to cut off 2, but they could cut off 5
Right.
to give to it. They own the land free and clear, or whatever it is, so they're giving up 5 acres as opposed to 2 acres. It's not we're saying you can't live on the family
Well,
farm.
I'm not, I
Deed
mean,
of
I'm
trust.
just,
Yeah.
I'm just being
And
I'm just a devil's advocate, I'm
No,
not
that's
saying devil, but,
But say,
you
don't
know,
talk to me like that.
some kids, you know, some kids don't want 5 acres, they don't wanna be able to take care of 5 acres. And my mother is sick, ailing, and I just want my I just want my little 2 acres with my house. I mean, it's a sticky situation there that, you know, I'm not saying every family, but some families are coming back and their parents are elderly and they want, and most of what we've been getting are these kids wanna come back and live with their parents because they're getting elderly. And I know a thing we do, and what Madison County is gonna have to do is look at the school system, and they're gonna have to do something about traffic. So it goes beyond us, it goes beyond our scope, because these other, the fire, all this gotta look into it.
That's the reason we're on a
They're part of it.
5-year comp plan.
Yeah.
So we adhere to the comp plan just like
Right.
that book for the 5 years, and then when we have to reassess at the 5-year mark, then we reassess. But for that period in time, that's a rolling factor.
Right.
And then, just like a term of office, after that term of office is up, if they don't like it, vote somebody else in this case, public outcry can come to the comp plan and change the comp plan. But, essentially, playing the devil advocate on the other side, you're expecting the community as a whole to bow down to the wishes of the one. And that's
So
not
we got,
the federal, state, or
we've got a
county.
whole lot of issues, folks. I mean, they're big issues, you know, it's just like I mentioned at the other time, affordable housing, you know, we try to make sure that these houses are up to certain standards so that we can get tax dollars off of them.
I don't understand
But everybody
affordable
can't-
housing as much as I do grandfathering. We may have to identify that term.
Well, we're gonna do both of them.
It also falls into the county plan with affordable housing, what the community standards of your county are.
Grandfather definitely, we're talking about that one.
I think we're gonna have a viewing and or visitation for grandfather at a soon meeting.
Okay, folks,
Now that ends.
I just know we may have come into a situation with that 169 acres, it was just redrawn, the redrawn application in.
178.92.
We may come into a situation where they wanna rezone that RR.
So we didn't allow commercial agriculture, but
Yeah.
we'll allow residential housing
It
in
was
this population.
Just,
It's also in the school
it was
district.
discussed about him doing that, so that's all I'm gonna say, but that's something that we may have to really look at, dividing that 169 acres, what do you get, 2 acres in RR, 169 acres?
178.92.
yeah, but that's,
And I had to look at that paper over and over again.
that's gonna be a point
It
of
would have to
discussion,
go to
but
R1 to be subdivided.
it's A2,
Or R1.
so you can cut off
The whole subplat.
That's right.
17
Yeah,
10-acre
yeah,
A2 properties.
yeah,
It doesn't have to go to A2, RR.
yeah.
It doesn't have to go to RR, I mean, like he was talking about, that, just because somebody wants that, if that's not for the good of the community, then you don't do it.
Yeah.
Where that 68's coming from, it could be split 4 times into 68.73 acre tracts, and I have to go through a rezone.
Right. Which is
Y'all want to come and write
okay.
anything on my dry erase board that you want me to look at. I have one dedicated just to P and Z.
All right, anything else? We've been here for a while, folks.
Open door policy, come anytime, any questions, might have to make an appointment.
All right, do we have, do I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Christopher made the motion.
Get a second?
I second it.
Who made the first one?
Lee?
Lee? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Then I get rid of that.
We're adjourned.
Good. So he gave it to us in a small.
Exactly. And that, we're wanting to amend the ordinance, because it states that they have to give each class.
I'll tell you what, I enjoyed it. It's so nice, it's a lot easier to read than
Right,
I think he is probably never drill that much.
And I think we might have,
If he doesn't get that drain fixed by commission meeting time, they're gonna be on his head.
Well, if he don't, I mean, he's not gonna get approved.
No, you're right.
He's not gonna approve it. You know, and I wanted him to